We got us. We up. We up. We up. All right, y'all. I'm excited. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Um, Ready to talk about our topic tonight as we get things going. Excuse me and my screens, y'all. Excuse me and my screens. Almost there. Happy Monday. I hope y'all had a great weekend. I hope you had a great day. I'm a little bummed about Malcolm Jamal Warner, though. That got me today. But rest in peace to him and blessings to his family. But yeah, if out of everything that got me today, that was tough. That was tough to digest. But I'm glad we got a chance to jump on live, talk through our topic tonight. The topic tonight is on the struggle of avoidance, which was voted on our last poll. So I hope this is helpful. I know this is a tough subject because at the end of the day, we all are avoidant to some capacity. And so, I don't know what happened to my music. Hey, Dr. Quinn, how are you? So yeah, I know that we're all avoidant to some capacity. But hey, we're here. We're going to talk through it. We're going to get through it together. Y'all, I don't know what happened to my music and why it just decided to shut off. I think it's like connecting to my headphones. But hey, it will be the background of my water fountain. That's what we're going to do today. Because I don't know where my headphones are and why it's connecting to that. But yeah, let's jump in, y'all. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I am a certified mindfulness coach. This channel is all things self-care, mental health, meditation. If you listen to any of the meditations on a weekly basis that I post, that is my voice that you hear. But every week we do a live on a particular subject that's voted on by subscribers. So I'm excited. This is what we voted on. I was avoidant of the topic, okay? It took me a while to post the topic to talk about, okay? So when we're talking about avoidance, I'm talking to myself, y'all. I'm talking to myself. But I have a few tips to take away just about avoidance, what it really is and how it shows up in our lives, what we can do to overcome it. And then I have some affirmations that you can take away at the end of the conversation. So please talk back to me. Stop laughing at me, Dr. Quinn. I see you. Just so y'all know, I'm on Instagram and YouTube. So I definitely talk back to me. I want to see your comments. If you have anything to add, please do. If you have questions, please add them to the chat. If you need me to repeat anything, please add it to the chat. And if you're going to stick around, make sure to like the live, make sure to share the live, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And again, I hope this is a blessing and it's helpful. So we're going to jump in. Avoidance, okay? What really is avoidance? What is it really, what are we doing when we have feelings of avoidance or we see ourselves or notice ourselves avoiding, right? Hey, Faith Forward. Oh, I'm glad you caught the live too. Thank you for joining. But yeah, so when we're thinking about avoidance, what is it, right? So avoidance is a conscious or an unconscious effort to escape or suppress reality. That's just like the gist of an actual definition, right? Avoidance is a conscious or unconscious effort to escape or suppress a reality. It's a way to trick our brains into short-term relief or coping. And it's a way to distance ourselves from uncomfortable thoughts, emotions, memories, or situations. Okay? So I'll repeat that. Avoidance is a conscious or unconscious effort to escape or suppress a reality. It is a way for us to trick our brains into short-term relief or coping. and a way to distance ourselves from uncomfortable thoughts, emotions, memories, or situations. Okay? So at the end of the day, avoidance is a coping mechanism. It's a way for us to, it's a matter of survival. It's a way of protection. It's a form of suppression that we allow ourselves to fall into or unconsciously fall into in order to rescue ourselves, right? Hi, Blue Bear, welcome in order for us to rescue ourselves, whether we're feeling a level of fear or confusion, frustration, a level of trauma, whether we're feeling a level of unsafety, whether that's safety physically, emotionally, spiritually. We use avoidance, again, subconsciously or consciously, as a way to survive, right? So how does it show up? Where does it show up? Why is it showing up? Is what we're kind of dive into, right? So most avoidance is related to fear, anxiety, trauma, so traumatic experiences or the memories of a traumatic experience, feelings of rejection, abandonment, or judgment, fatigue, overwhelm, exhaustion, and a matter of, like I said, a matter of protection or survival. But also, I think one thing that we often forget about when it comes to avoidance is that it's a matter of habit, right? It's a habitual response when it comes to having the feelings or the action of avoidance. And so we may have our own family cultural conditioning of avoidance that happens, that is just ingrained to us to the point where it happens unconsciously, and it's not in a way for us to do intentionally, where we're trying to be dismissive of other people or be mean in any way. Is really either survival or a matter of habit. So that's just my quick overview of avoidance and where it's coming from. It's often seen. This is another way I like to think of avoidance. It's also seen as a solution. It's also seen as a solution to a problem, right? And a lot of times, seeing this as a solution um, creates more issues in hindsight. It creates more anxiety, more depression, more frustration and confusion when we rely on avoidance as a solution to our problems versus it being an indicator of a problem. Okay, so I hope that overview gives some sense of awareness and noticing of how it shows up in your life, but also thinking about that being a solution and it hindering your own personal growth and your own personal healing. Because anytime that you avoid, you're pushing your healing back, right? You're pushing your ability to build in resilience back, right? You're pushing the ability to grow or have some level of growth. You're pushing that back. So that's what avoidance is. It's a trick, really. It's a way that we trick ourselves into thinking that we are fixing something when we're not. Avoiding is easy, right? Let's be real. Avoiding situations, avoiding people we don't like, avoiding conflicts is easy. And because it's easy, that's usually our go-to solution versus, like I said, an indicator of there being a problem. Okay, so that's avoidance. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else that I missed when you think of avoidance and other ways that you have found yourself using avoidance. But that's really just the gist of the definition. So how does it show up, right? How can we pinpoint, how can we notice, avoidance or when we are avoiding? The first thing, this was number one on my list because this is what I do, is procrastination. You push things off, right? You push them off to a point where it's chronic and things just never get done, right? So procrastination is a big way avoidance shows up in our lives. It may also show up in our lives as distraction or overthinking or overstimulation. especially distraction. A lot of times, avoidance is not necessarily you pushing the thing back, you're just replacing the thing with something else, right? So, creating busy work, finding other things to do to fill in the time of a space that you know you're supposed to be doing something else. You fill it with something that, and a lot of times, it may not even be something that's productive, right? So, like, you have to, get paper done, right? And you distract yourself by scrolling on TikTok. Or that you have to pay your bills. And because it's a struggle, you're limited in the amount of money that you have, you go shopping. Total opposite of what should be doing, right? So thinking about how you're distracted or how you're distracting yourself is a big one. Overthinking, over analyzing things is also a way to distract yourself. But then also just a matter of overstimulation is where you overstimulate yourself with all of this busy work to the point where you don't have the capacity to deal with the stuff that you're avoiding, right? So distraction, overthinking, overstimulation, busy work, unrealistic standards, and engulfing yourself in perfectionism is another way that you can avoid things. Like, if it's not, I need it to be this perfect, and if it's not this perfect, then I can't do the thing. And using that as a matter of avoidance. So, like, okay, if it ain't perfect, then I'm not going to do it, right? A matter of control and micromanagement, which is kind of in a stem of the perfectionism. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Withdrawing or shutting down is another way. Instead of you attempting to do the thing, you just shut everything down. You do nothing. And that is sometimes me. Sometimes I get so overstimulated with all of the things that I have to do that I just completely shut down and withdraw. People pleasing is another way that isn't necessarily one that you think of when thinking of avoidance, but people pleasing is huge because many times that especially when it comes to relationships, instead of us dealing with the thing, right? Instead of dealing with the issue with the person, right? We go on this people pleasing mode and trying to fix it without addressing the issue. So, a matter of avoidance is looking to try to solve without resolving, right? You're trying to solve without the conflict resolution. We're skipping conflict resolution and going straight to, I'm just going to try to make this person happy. Then maybe they'll forget about what's going on, right? Faith, you said something. Hold on. I'm sorry. My live chat keeps disappearing. You hit all those nails on the head. I'm so transparently in this space. Yes, absolutely. Like it's hard to even talk about. It's hard to even listen to. I'm pretty sure it's hard to listen to as I'm talking about it. But even just having the conversation is a big step. Listening to me talk through it is a big step because avoidance is one thing that we avoid, if that makes sense, in our lives to the point where it has such a huge impact on how we're living our lives, but we just completely dismiss or even not even dismiss. It's hard to notice or to even pick up on or have awareness of, to be honest. So, but people pleasing is a big one, especially when it comes to relationships and especially when it comes to those of us who avoid conflict. For those of us who anytime something or a problem or an issue pops up, whether big or small, we do everything we can to avoid it by trying to please the people that we're trying to avoid as far as like the conflict, okay? And the other obvious one is avoiding certain places, people, or topics. Also, deflection is a huge way that people avoid. If you're deflecting and projecting things in different spaces, like if you have an issue over here, you may take your energy and all of your feelings and emotions and displace it and put it over here. as a matter of avoidance. Even as simple as when people bring up conflict, you crack jokes. So you make, oh, I'm joking, or your goal, you change the subject and things of that matter. So deflection, displacement, all of those things are how avoidance shows up. Okay. So that's all that I have for that section. But I hope this is helpful. I hope this brings some clarity. I hope this brings some awareness. That's really all this is on, right? It's not saying that we got to fix everything tomorrow, but this is a matter of bringing it up, having the conversation, bringing to our awareness what's happening, and taking the time to reflect on those things. Okay, so how do we overcome? How do we overcome this struggle with avoidance? Do I feel like we will forever be able to 100% overcome avoidance? No, because there's always going to be some element to it, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about that fine line of avoidance and what's actually healthy, because there are some states, parts of our lives where we have to set boundaries and we have to prioritize and we have to focus in one area versus another and give time to, one thing versus another. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. So we'll talk about the differentiation between that too. But how do we overcome? We overcome by building resilience for conflicts and situations that we consider hard, difficult, or traumatic. Okay? So I'll say that again. By building resilience for conflicts and situations that we consider to be hard or conflicting, frustrating, traumatic, it goes back to all of those things, right? So when it comes to how do we overcome, I have 4 ways. Number 1, be honest and name what you are avoiding. Be honest and name what you are avoiding. Okay? This is probably the hardest part, y'all. I'm going to be very, very honest. It's probably the hardest part to really sit and be honest with yourself and name the spaces and areas that you are avoiding. And it's not just one versus the other. You really want to evaluate, how am I avoiding my emotions? How am I avoiding my cognitive or my mental state? How am I avoiding my behaviors? How am I avoiding in my experiences, right? Notice patterns, notice habits, notice what's actually consistent for you, and be really honest about those things. Be honest about those patterns. Be honest about those habits. And again, if this is something that is difficult for you to walk through alone, by any means, if you have a therapist, work with a therapist, work with a coach, work with someone that can help you walk you through it. Like I said before, I am going into my practicum soon, so I'll let y'all know when I'm gonna drop that link when y'all ready for therapy. But walking through this with someone may be very helpful. 1, because you have a third party or second party if you're going into therapy, to really look into your situation and be able to pinpoint those patterns and habits that are popping up that you may be consistently engulfed in because that's a part of your family conditioning, right? Or it's a part of your cultural conditioning. It's something that you've always done throughout your life. It's not going to be something that's going to be easy to adjust or change overnight. And it may take someone else to pinpoint or to point those things out to you, right? So really taking the time to be honest, doing that through therapy, doing that through some form of journaling, and being patient with it, right? If you need to slow down, if it's too much, if it's too overwhelming, take a break. If you need to walk away from it and come back to it at a later time where you're in a better state, then do that. But really taking that initial step is the beginning, right? However long it takes you to get through the rest of the steps is how long it's going to take you to get through the rest of the steps. I mean, that's all I can say. That's all you can do, right? So be honest and name what you are avoiding. That's number 1. Number 2, understand and reframe your relationship with hard things or conflicts. Understand and reframe your relationship with hard things and conflicts, okay? How you think about conflicts? How do you think about hard things, whether it be hard experiences, hard relationships, hard anything, right? Especially in the spaces that you are avoiding. Being very intentional and understanding what that is for you. So for some people, for example, if you are avoidant of conflicts, or you find finding these hard things hard to address, what are your actions? What do you actually do now? Take the time to understand what that is. Are you a runner? Right? She's a runner, she's a track star. Are you running? Are you someone that as soon as you see conflict, you run? Are you someone that as soon as you see conflict, you just dive in and you don't rationalize? You are a bit more irrational when dealing with conflict. Are you someone that withdraws or just kind of just disappears? Some people will disappear on you from conflict and then pop up out of nowhere, be like, "Hey, how's everything going?" You be like, "Okay, there was a whole situation the last time I saw you. What's going on? What's going on?" So just like really taking the time to understand how you respond to conflict, understand your viewpoints on conflict. For me, I'm trying to reframe my thought process of conflict from it being a matter of punishment or it being a matter of something being wrong with me, because that's a big thing. If you see conflict with someone or you see conflict in an experience, you may automatically feel like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me, right? And then you go into panic mode and then you get anxious and then you withdraw. I'm saying you, but I'm really talking to myself because that's who I am. That's who I have been in the past, right? Let me change my language. That's how I have been in the past. So reframing how I see conflict from it being something is wrong with me to something's trying to grow me, right? Something is trying to heal me. Something is trying to progress me, to have me progress, right? So reframing that just because the conflict doesn't mean that there is a problem with me. It just means that there's a resolution that needs to be had. And through that resolution comes growth. Through that resolution comes healing. Through that resolution comes a better version of Debbie. Through that conflict comes resilience and a matter of me being able to deal with difficult things. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, life is hard. Life is difficult. We're going to have difficult experiences. And if we go through life thinking that our life is going to be a Disney movie all of the time, even though these Disney movies be traumatic, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we think that it's going to be a fairy tale and that there's always going to be a positive ending at the end of the story. And because we engulf ourselves in these fictitious situations, whether it be movies and TV or even some of these reality shows are still fictitious in a way to where we think things are supposed to go a certain way. And then when we have something pop up like a conflict, whether big or small, it throws us all off to the point where we avoid everything and we prolong our growth, we prolong our healing. So finding ways to understand your relationship with hard things, understand your relationship with conflict and what that looks like for you mentally, spiritually. Like, what do you really think about these things? And as you start to name what that is, you can then begin to reframe. You can then, when I say reframe, it just means to change how your viewpoint or to change your mindset, right? So finding what those things are and working through ways to reframe those things. So that way, when conflict comes up, you're not necessarily more prepared, but in a way, more prepared, and you're more willing to have those hard conversations. You're more willing to go through those hard situations to a point where you're able to see what the light or the brightness on the other side, instead of it being a completely like, I don't want to deal with it, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to do nothing. Like, another avoidance that people do is avoiding the doctor. You know your back hurt, okay? You know it hurts. your stomach hurts, you got stuff popping up on your skin, and because we don't want to know what it is, we avoid going to go to the doctor, okay? Just think about these little small, even if it's just small experiences like that. Though if you don't want to deal with the hard stuff right away, start somewhere, right? So that way you're able to progressively build your resilience when it comes to conflict. That actually leads me to number 3, which is practice willing exposure. Practice willing exposure in a way to where no matter how big or how small, you are able to address those conflicts or address those hardships, right? I talked about our medical situation. Finances is another thing. You afraid to even check your checking account. Been there, okay? Been there. You avoid even checking your checking account, but you keep swiping like, oh, I hope it go through. Check your account. It can be something as small as that, right? So, but thinking about ways to, I don't like saying the word force, but in a way, putting yourself in and exposing yourself into spaces that you typically would avoid. So really think about, what are the things that I'm avoiding right now? Am I avoiding, it could be as small as sending an email. Sometimes I avoid sending emails. I'll be really honest. Sometimes I'm like, oh, another email came in. I think maybe because it's the recruiter in me. I worked in recruiting or work in recruiting. So all I do is email all day. So when it comes to my personal emails, and even my business emails, I'll respond to. But when it comes to my personal emails, I get a little avoidant. So it could be something as small as that, right? If you're avoidant of your finances, your medical situation, if you're avoidant of certain relationships and certain people that you got to set boundaries with, people that that you have to come in contact with, thinking about those areas that you avoid the most and tackling them one by one step at a time. The more that you're willing to do that, the more practice you get. So when new situations come, when new situations happen, you're more prone to handle them in the moment rather than going back to your procrastination, rather than going back to distractions, rather than going back to the overthinking and the overstimulation, the withdrawing, the shutdown, the people pleasing, right? Rather than you going back to all of those things. That was number 3. And then number 4, which is the last one before we go into our affirmations, is understanding your level of avoidance versus prioritization, right? There's a difference and there's a fine line between when you're avoiding something and when you're just prioritizing what needs to be prioritized in that moment. Making sure not to confuse the two, right? Show yourself compassion and not over-examine your avoidance, right? There's a fine line, and there's a fine line between the two, and there's safety in prioritization versus you thinking that, oh, am I being avoidant? Or am I just really being a good planner? Am I being proactive? Am I really just kind of setting the stage of what needs to happen for the week? Or am I really setting the stage for what's happening, at work, right? So the way that you tell the difference between avoidance and prioritization is what's driving it, right? What's driving your thoughts of the avoidance or prioritization, right? Think about what's driving your decision. Is it fear? Is it discomfort? Is it frustration, overstimulation? Or is it intentionality, care, or setting boundaries, right? There's a difference between the two. You know the difference. You know when you're avoiding versus when you're actually just being very proactive and being a planner and making sure that you're planning things through. So I don't want this conversation of avoidance to have us overanalyze, right? That's not the goal. The goal is awareness. The goal is noticing. And in that awareness and noticing, from there, taking the time to be able to differentiate the two and make this good decisions moving forward, right? But when it comes to avoidance, it's going to be, like I said, show yourself compassion in the process. It's not going to be something that you'll be able to fix overnight, but it is something that you can have small wins along the way, right? Especially if it's something that is chronic for you. Some people may not be as avoidant as others, and this may not hit home as hard for some as it would hit home for others. But it's good to be aware, especially when it comes to our own personal growth and healing. Okay? Because sometimes maybe a lot of us may be perfectly fine at work, but when it comes to our personal lives, oof, it's tough. Avoiding every 5 seconds everywhere, or vice versa. We may be, really, really attentive into our personal lives, but when it comes to our careers, oof, just avoidance, staying right where it's comfortable, right? We're not pursuing or moving forward or moving up or moving in the direction that we want to be because of even the fear of success is a matter of avoidance or even self-sabotage, but we won't go there. That's a whole nother live. So I hope this is helpful, y'all. I hope this brings some insight to avoidance. Again, this live is a way for me to get through my own avoidance, because like I said, I avoided this topic. Okay, but we here. We almost done. We here. So we'll go into affirmations. Feel free to use these affirmations however you wish to. You can write them down in your journal. You can record yourself saying them and replay them back. You can put them on sticky notes. Feel free to use them however you wish. Also, feel free to reword these affirmations. So if it doesn't sound like your voice, or you want to change the words around, please do. This is just a framework. I have 6 affirmations for tonight that you can take away. I'm going to go through, is it 6? Yes, 6. So I'll give you 6 tonight. Feel free to take this time to write this down. If you need me to repeat anything and need me to go back, please let me know. And we will start with number 1. And talk back to me, y'all. I hope this is helping. If you haven't already, like the live. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. Okay, number 1. It's okay to feel resistance. I'm still capable of choosing differently. It's okay to feel resistance. I'm still capable of choosing differently. It's okay to feel resistance. I'm still capable of choosing differently. This is just a reminder that just because you feel resistance and conflict doesn't mean that you can't choose differently. Doesn't mean that you can't choose to dive in and to have those conversations. Sometimes that resistance is because we feel a certain way about our own abilities or capabilities in handling conflict. Whether that be conflict with other people or different experiences, we may not trust our thought patterns or may not trust our ability of emotional regulation, or we may not trust us. So because we don't trust us, we avoid. But the way that we are able to move past that is to feel those resistance in an attempt and to try. And through your try, even if your try isn't 100%, it's the beginning to learning. It's the beginning to getting better, right? When I think about even my own communication style, right, and me doing lives, the lives was a way for me to, I've always been a communicator, but I've always been one that had difficulty with emotional regulation, and then also had difficulty with when I feel a certain way, articulating that in the best way possible. So sometimes I'll get everything out, but it may not make sense because I'm so frustrated, or I'm so riled up, right? So this is a way of me practicing communication, and in that, gotten better in communication in all other areas and aspects of my life, right? But it takes that time for me to mess up. It takes that time for me to try, and it may not come out the way that I want it, but then now I know how I sound. Also, I hated listening to myself talk. Like all the videos for the longest time, I could not listen to it back. Even when I do my meditations, I have to force myself to listen to it back, so that way I make sure that I ain't stumble over words or something is placed properly or whatever. But You have to give yourself, even within the resistance that you feel, pushing past that. Just because you feel the resistance doesn't mean that you have to retreat, doesn't mean that you have to hide yourself, doesn't mean that you have to withdraw. It just means that it's there, but you can still make a different decision from what you're feeling. Okay? Your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts, you have control over all of it, right? And even if you have a certain feeling or have a certain emotion or have a certain thought, it doesn't have to dictate your actions. It doesn't have to dictate your behavior. Okay? So sometimes we think just because we have a thought, we have to act on the thought. No, it was just a thought, right? You can have someone, you can have a bird come fly and land on your head, but you can determine how long the bird stays there, right? You're not going to sit there and let it build a nest, right? So just thinking about, like, just because I feel the resistance or just because something happens, it doesn't mean that I have to react in the way that my resistance feels. I can choose the opposite, okay? Off my soapbox, sorry y'all. But I needed to get that out because it's okay to feel the resistance. It's okay to have those thoughts. It's okay to have those emotions and still choose what you want to inherently choose, right? Which is choosing growth, choosing healing, right? That was number one. Yeah, that was number one. I'm sorry, y'all. Soapbox. It's okay to feel resistance. I'm still capable of choosing differently. Number two, I can, thank you, peace. I appreciate you. I can face discomfort with curiosity instead of shame, guilt, or fear. I can face discomfort with curiosity instead of shame, guilt, or fear. I can face discomfort with curiosity instead of shame, guilt, or fear, right? When we feel these uncomfortable feelings and emotions when it comes to conflict, when it comes to doing hard things, be curious. Don't allow shame, guilt, and fear to go on its wheel. Because I always feel like these feelings of shame, guilt, and fear always, they don't just come and go. They come and then they spin, right? Like a hamster wheel, right? And when it comes to, or like the little hamsters that are in the balls and they're just like rolling around on the floor, that's how I think of shame, guilt, and fear. But all we have to do is really just stop the ball, stop the wheel, pick up the ball and throw that thing. Okay, well, not with the hamster in there. You get what I'm saying. But really, the way that you throw that thing is with curiosity. Be curious about the discomfort. Why am I feeling discomfort? What is it? What is the actual issue? Is it that I don't trust myself? Is it that there's fear of what's going to happen in the situation? If it's fear of what's going to happen in the situation, what really could happen in the situation? Like, what's the worst case scenario? Is it that bad? It's not really that bad. So let's just go for it anyway, right? Just thinking, allowing the circle or that cycle or that ball or that spinning to be your curiosity thoughts, those things that are trying to solve, versus the spinning of, what are you going to say? Well, why would you say it that way? No, don't say anything. Okay, well, let's just run. Da, 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 da. It's a different wheel that's spinning. So it's not to say that we want to stop a wheel. It's more so of change the wheel that's spinning. I hope that makes sense. Because a lot of times we're going to go ahead and spin that guilt. We're going to spin that shame. We're going to spin that fear. We're going to let that spin for hours, for minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, where we're just replaying, versus us repurposing or reframing and spinning curiosity. Be curious about your feelings versus allowing guilt and shame and fear to just override you. Again, you have control. You are in control of your mind, your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions. You're in control of that. That was number two. Y'all, I'm blabbling. I'm sorry. Number three, I can notice my thoughts without needing to run or hide from them. I can notice my thoughts without needing to run or hide from them. I can notice my thoughts without needing to run or hide from them. don't let your thoughts scare you. Okay? Don't let your thoughts scare you. And ultimately, that noticing of what we're thinking it generates our immediate response, to the point where, based off of your own patterns and habits, your immediate response is to hide, is to run. Whether that be from stemming from past traumas and your past life experiences, and could very well be valid. I'm not removing the validity of trauma and PTSD and how that may show up in our lives. I don't want to invalidate that. But we do have the ability to notice those things and still face them, right? Again, this may take some time. You may be better or easier for it may be better or easier for you to do it for some situations and not others. Other situations, you may need more support, you may need more help, you may need time, space, and that's okay. Show yourself compassion in those things, but noticing these thoughts doesn't mean that you have to run and hide. And depending on what those things are, pace yourself and find other ways to solve them versus avoidance. That was number 3. Number 4, and this kind of ties into what I was just saying, time, space, and support are a necessity and a sign of strength, not weaknesses. Time, space, and support are a necessity and a sign of strength, not weaknesses. Time, space, and support are a necessity and a sign of strength, not weaknesses. When you are able to notice that you need support, when you're able to notice that you need space and that you need time, and you're able to give yourself those things or even ask for those things, that's a matter of strength. Weakness is, and I don't even like to say weakness, I don't even like to call it weakness, but when it comes to the opposite, right? That keeps you in a state of anxiousness and fear and anxiety, right? It keeps you in a state of depression. It keeps you in a state of hopelessness, right? But being able to step outside of that and say, hey, I need help. Like, I need support. I need a little bit more time. I need some space. This is surpassing my capabilities. Like, this is passing the threshold of what I can provide or do or service. Being able to step outside of that and to do that is a form of strength. And sometimes when people notice that they need help or they need some form of support or they need something, they automatically feel like, oh, well, I'm weak, you know. It just sucks that I have to ask for help, and I hate that I have to ask for help. Like, those are the things that we think about, which we want to be better, but because that's the way that we're thinking, we find a way to avoid the situation versus us asking for help, right? So you may need help in a situation and you're like, okay, I need help, but I ain't gonna say nothing because I don't want to ask for help. So because I'm not gonna ask for help, I'm just gonna avoid that thing. I'm just gonna avoid it altogether. All right. So just taking the time to understand that a matter of asking for support is that beginning to remove avoidance from these situations. Oh, hey T, welcome in. And we got a comment here, Faith. Just a second. This is good and so needed. God sure knows how to send the help. Yes. Don't be afraid to ask for that help when you need it. Especially now, y'all. We going through a thing. Listen, we going through a thing. Just America. We done lost Theo. We got a whole lot of stuff going on, y'all. Like, it's just too much. So if you need help, if you need support, ask for it. That was number 4. We got 2 more. Number 5, I can rewrite my patterns and habits with patience and permission. I can rewrite my patterns and habits with patience and permission. I can rewrite my patterns and habits with patience and permission. So just because we notice different patterns and habits, remember I was saying earlier to take notice of any of the habits that we have of avoidance and the patterns, that we feel like we can't change these things. Like, this is just who I am. And I know I've said that before, right? Where we go through this element of I've always done things this way, so this is just me, and it's never going to change, right? It doesn't mean that you can't change the habit. It just means that you have to have a little bit more patience, and you have to give yourself permission to change it. Because of the fact that we link these things to our personality, we link these things to, this is who I am as a person. We may even link these things to culture, right? So even when you think about avoidance in the whole with African American or Black American culture of, we don't snitch, right? We just avoid, we just ignore. Now that's the touchy subject, but I'm gonna say it. So with these types of things, this is something that's ingrained within our culture, and because of the fact that we have this thing ingrained in our culture, when it comes to a matter of avoidance, when we try to shift or change those things, now all of a sudden I ain't Black. And I laugh, but it's the truth, right? Like, we think of these things and these habits and these patterns that we have in a matter of avoidance, and we associate it with who we are as a person, rather than it just being a habit or a pattern that we learned or conditioned ourselves to be. Whether we conditioned ourselves to be that way, or we were conditioned within our family dynamic or our family nature, or again, like within our culture. So thinking about the patterns and habits that you have associated to avoidance, and how that is related or tied to personality, how that's related and tied to who we think we are as a person. And there's a level of grief that happens when we grow, and then when we heal, to a point where when we try to attempt to change, or we try to attempt to make different decisions than we have done historically, we feel like we're losing a piece of ourselves. We feel like we're losing personality. We feel like we're losing culture, right? Especially when it comes to minorities in general, because a lot of things that we associate with culture may not be as healthy as we want it or think it should be, right? So not just thinking about the patterns and habits, and giving ourselves patience throughout the process and compassion throughout the process, but also thinking about, what permission do I have to give myself in order for me to actually start cognitively changing how I'm thinking about this particular issue, right? Because avoidance may not show up and this could be in career, this could be in so many different things. Even when you think about culture and different types of careers, and how some careers are more acceptable in culture and other careers are not acceptable in culture. And thinking about, like, hey, this is what I want to do, but based off of my culture, I see this with Asian American people all the time when it comes to certain different, or even Nigerian Americans, there are certain jobs that you are supposed to have, and if you don't have those jobs, then within your family or within your culture, you're not successful, right? So thinking about, I know I went deep, y'all, but this is what comes to my mind when I think about this affirmation. Is like thinking about those patterns and habits that create this space of, I'm avoiding this because of how I was conditioned, or how I conditioned myself. You have the permission and the ability to change what that looks like. You have that leverage. And I think sometimes we feel like we're in a box. And because we are in that box, we try to keep our eyes inside the box. And if we even see a peak or a hole or anything in the box where we can see on the other side, or we can peek out and see something different, we avoid it completely, right? And that creates some level of high functioning depression. It creates anxiety. It creates so many different cognitive issues because of the fact that we're avoiding something that we desire, want, or want to go after. So again, I've been on soapbox like all night. So I apologize if I'm like prolonging this, but I felt like I needed to say that. I don't know who that was for, but that was number 5. And lastly, number 6, which is our last affirmation: avoidance was my survival. Awareness is now my healing. Avoidance was my survival. Awareness is now my healing. I'll say that one last time. Avoidance was my survival. Awareness is now my healing. So avoidance may have been your survival. It may have been your protection. It may have been your safety. It may have been easy for you, right? It may have been your habit. It may have been your pattern, right? Up until this point. But awareness is now the beginning. It's the beginning of change. It's the beginning of growth. It's the beginning of evolution. And if this is something that you desire to evolve in, this is the start, right? This is the beginning. Take baby steps. Don't go out there tomorrow all willy-nilly trying to beat yourself up because you feel like you're avoiding everything. Take your time, pace yourself, go with, and I always say, I don't want to say that go with the easiest thing because some things are more urgent than others. So I challenge you to go after the most urgent thing. Okay, I'm not going to say not to go over the most easy thing, but attempt to go after the most urgent. What is most urgent in your life that you're avoiding? And only you know the answer to that, right? Again, I challenge you in that. I want to hear your stories after I post this live. If you come back and post your comment and say, hey, I was avoiding this, but I overcome it today, I went for it. It can be something as simple of I sent that email I've been avoiding to I made my doctor's appointment, because I know some of y'all out here avoiding going to the doctor. Go to the doctor, okay? Go to the doctor, all right? But yeah, so I really hope this is helpful. I really hope this is a blessing. I pray for anybody that watches my content. I pray that anyone that watches my content gets something out of it, is blessed from it, receives some form of healing and solace and peace and joy from it, and experiences that on a day-to-day basis. So many blessings to you guys. If this is your first time watching my live, this live is every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on, I was about to say TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. It's on TikTok. I'm going to TikTok at 9 p.m. But I hope this was helpful. Thank you, Faith. Thank you for coming in and joining every week. Thank you, T, for joining. I appreciate you. And so if you are looking for updates on our lives and all of our stuff, make sure to go to haveninspired.com and sign up for our mindfulness newsletter. I send a newsletter every week, every Wednesday. Yeah, every Wednesday morning, just with updates on the lives, updates on our meditations that are posted and things of that matter. And if you are have a company that you work with that is looking for speakers to come in and talk about mental health in the workplace, I'm putting together a bunch of different workshops. So let me know. Shoot me an email at info@haveninspired.com. I'll be starting to go. I'm going to a few corporate spaces, but want to do that a little bit more consistently to do workshops. So let me know, y'all. And y'all have a great rest of your night. And I'll see you next week. I will also post a new poll on Saturday for next week's live. Bye, y'all.